and we are live. Welcome to the Not Your Scene Kid podcast, where we talk about all things from the first wave of metalcore emo in that early 2000s. All that cool stuff that happened, something that it's never going to happen again. And my name is Ghost Chaser Nick, and this is Mellie Munster, and we are going to do some album reviews for you. We each picked an album from that era that had a significant effect on us, and then we picked something new that still kind of belongs to that scene that we're really digging on. So feel free if you want to join the chat or whatever, ask any questions. We'll do some Q&As later. We can talk about that stuff, but we are here to talk about just it sounds maybe kind of silly, but the music that made us in a way. So Mellie is going to start us off by talking about her first album that she picked from that era. What was the album that you picked, Mellie?
I always get the title wrong because of
You're
my
totally
brain.
not in the frame of the shot. I'm sorry. Oh, we're training Mellie on the camera here. So
We're training on me everything. Like
yeah, that's right.
I'm new to this world, bro.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm sure, especially the friends that know me, they're like, that checks. So the
Okay.
changing of times. I always
Changing
want
of
to call it.
Times
I
is
always like mix up the titles into like I'll take titles and like jumble them together, and then it's like, no, wait, that's not what it's called. So yeah, so this album came out in 2001. I'm gonna be like 18 or 19 at that time,
okay.
and I just actually heard UnderOath for the first time because I know they had more like death metal, black metal kind of vibe before that. Um, and I somehow, I don't even know if YouTube was really a thing back then, but I somehow saw the video for When the Sun Still Sleeps, and I thought it was really good song, and I thought
The one where he's
the
driving in the
vocals.
car aimlessly and we don't know where he's going. It's got like those interior car shots where he's like driving at night or whatever. I just remember because
Yeah,
he's constantly turning the steering wheel and he looks lost.
well, the it also looks very like southern. It just looks very southern.
Well, they're
Like
from
it's just
Florida,
southern.
right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I hope there's one of those people that corrects us when we're wrong, because I would love that.
Yeah, in the chat, people
Well,
can chime in
well,
and correct
actually,
us on shit too. So
um, so so it was with their original singer Dallas, and he looked so different. They all look different. Like Aaron Gillespie, his hair was shorter, and
it was
I noticed
before
that
the almost days where he had the swoop.
the iconic swoop.
Yes.
But they still both had kind of a swoop thing going where they had to like kind of do that.
Yeah.
And I
It's really easy
remember,
to do too. You just take the hair over here and you push it the direction it does not belong, and make it go. By the way, I have my hair in a fucking ponytail. It does not look cool at all. So I'm fluffing
yes,
it out. There we go.
one of these days we should try to do scene hair on
See,
ourselves. That'd
no,
just be
no,
funny.
we're not doing that.
Oh man, that'd be so cool.
You can. You
I
can.
I will. Um, and I totally forgot what I was talking about.
Dallas
Oh
Taylor and
yeah.
his emo swoop. Aaron Gillespie.
Oh yeah. And I remember their keyboardist Chris was just going to town in that video. And like I never heard synthesizer in that style of music before, and I was just like, whoa, that's really cool.
It's
And like
interesting
even
because
this.
their choice of synth stuff in that is like, I mean, I did synth stuff for years, and now I can reflect, and it's honestly the synth stuff that they're doing. It doesn't sound like Chris really knows what he's doing with synthesizer, right? In retrospect, but at the time, because he's doing a lot of sounds that like you'd never heard in songs before.
I
You know?
mean, never stopped me before.
No,
um
no. I'm
and
just saying that that's from synthesis perspective.
yeah,
Hmm.
I'm not a musician, so it's like
Damn it.
it's kind of funny how like musicians are very, they view it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
um And then the beginning of Angel Below,
I'm trying
very,
to remember what song that was.
it's the one that sounds like, I want to say Meteor Man, but I don't think that's right.
I don't know what that
That's a
means, but
movie. Um, Mega Man, Mega Man.
hmm.
It kind of sounds like Mega Man in the beginning, and it's good. It's
I haven't
good.
listened to that album in so long. I remember that that album dropped. I was going to like a church that was really like punk, emo, hardcore, whatever. And I think
Me
that
too,
album
for the
dropped
most part.
I think that album dropped at Cornerstone, just like Changing of Times did, didn't it? Didn't it drop like that was pretty common at the time. Bands dropping
Mm.
albums at Cornerstone.
Yeah, I haven't been to Cornerstone yet. At this point in time. However, I do relate it a little bit to a tragedy. So one of my cousins overdosed, and
Mm.
his funeral was like probably like the day before I saw them with Beloved, and I think it was the same show as Figure 4, which
Okay.
is kind of, it makes sense, but it also is like three different styles of like metal
That was
hardcore.
really common back then, though.
Yeah,
You'd have an
yeah,
emo band, a metalcore band, and a pop punk band all in the same bill. That wasn't
right.
uncommon.
Um, and like Under Oath, I think is like one of those bands that kind of made that style more known or popular, in my opinion. Like
And what particular style do you
the
mean? Do you like that like emo core, that like screamo type thing?
right, like where the vocals, his vocals aren't like whiny or anything like that. I mean, we also have Thursday, but he just has a really good vocal style, and I think maybe they realized that, and that's why he's a lot more prominent on their later albums.
Hmm. Talking about Aaron, Aaron's being more
Yes.
prominent. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, there were a lot of bands I felt like emulated what he was doing, though
Yeah.
his style.
Maybe
Um,
I'm just a Aaron Gillespie fan,
you
and
might be.
I just never wanted to admit it because my punk rock friends would be like, "Oh," but they could just screw it,
The
screw it.
snobbery in the
Um,
scene. We can't have that.
whatever. I don't care anymore. I'd be lying if that was not the truth. Um, but yeah, and then the then they got their new singer, and he's really good. Um, but
Talking about they
I
got
haven't really
It's is it Spencer Chamberlain joining the band? So Dallas, yeah, Dallas is on this album. Spencer's on the next one.
right.
Yeah,
But I do need to dive in more to Maylene because I haven't listened to them in years. So
there.
that's like on my to do.
It's wild how some of these bands like I got introduced to Dallas Taylor through this album, and I didn't know what Maylene was, and then I
Hmm.
saw there's a venue in which I lived in middle of Kansas at the time, and there was a venue in Wichita that had a lot of like hardcore bands and stuff like that that played. And I saw a post, and they're like Maylene and Sons of Disaster. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And so we looked it up, and we're like, holy shit, this is the dude from UnderOath's new band. And we listened to it, and it was like so fresh because it was this totally um, like different, like more like hardcore influenced approach of like what Pantera was essentially. And so it had like
Yeah.
more breakdowns. It was more southern. They just embraced that, and
Yeah.
something about it was like the perfect time. And Maylene has gone on to be the successful band for him, right?
Hmm.
They're still cooking. They were here a couple months ago in Las
Oh.
Vegas. Yeah, they still have a huge following, but their following, I don't think many of them even listened to Under Oath. They've got a
We.
whole new crew of people that like them
Hmm.
now that like that southern metal thing, you know. So it's interesting. And then we were talking the other day about Norma Jean, how like Bless the Martyr is such a legendary album and still overshadows what Norma Jean's been doing for the past 15 years, and yet they've been making great stuff. But for some reason, because that album was at the right place at the right time, it like overshadows a lot of that stuff. It's weird. It's weird to like see something that's like so
Yeah.
special and so prominent. It never stops being like a special thing in the history of that band. You know.
I knew they were bigger than I thought because, well, Maylene, which we could probably have a whole episode about that.
Hmm.
But I worked at a doggy daycare, and one person came in and with a new dog, and its name was Maylene, and I was like, "Oh, that's a band," and she's like, "Oh yeah, I named her after that."
That's cool. That's
And
cool.
then also, Demi Lovato was like in an interview on one of those late night talk shows,
Hmm.
and she's actually into metal,
No
and
shit.
she name dropped Maylene, and I was just like,
It's
"Why
it's
don't you do that
actually
kind of music?"
a lot of pop stars like underground heavy music. I think
Yeah.
it was Drake name dropped Entheos.
Um,
That was like a couple years ago, and I only know about that because I was listening to a podcast that Cheney Crab was on. And
Maybe that's my way in to get my cousins into metal because I have a cousin that's like really into Drake.
yeah, a lot of it's surprising. A lot of pop stars like really heavy shit privately. You know, it's weird. And sometimes they like really
Hmm.
satanic shit privately too. We can have a whole conversation about that. But it's like they're
So,
kind of into it. It's funny. You know, even like Jada Pinkett Smith had her own like metal band for a while. You know,
hmm,
yeah, she was the front man
well,
of a metal band for a long time.
her daughter does like alternative pop music. Like she
Hmm.
does like sort of have. She had a song with Travis Barker, but recently I heard UnderOath did this song with a country singer. I don't know if you heard that yet,
Who did?
but UnderOath they did like
With a
they were like the
country?
backing band for a
Really?
country singer.
That's
And I'll be
funny.
honest, I don't hate it. And I felt bad. I was like, why is this so catchy? I hate this. I
There
hate
was
it
a
because
th-
I hate it because it's pop country, but I love it because it's under oath.
That's funny. I didn't know
And
about
like,
that. That's fucking
yeah,
wild.
so you're gonna have that's gonna be on your to-do list is to listen to that song.
Oh, you have to send me a link. That sounds fucking wild.
Yeah, I just happened
There
to look at Spotify and it was just right there.
there was a metalcore band that we used to book all the time called Your Memorial, and they didn't really make really much money when they were on tour. I mean, they were amazing, but they just would grind it out. But when they were home, they would play like instruments for like country bands and get paid more money doing that. They just played covers and stuff, but they get more money
Yeah.
playing in the bars than they would playing in their own band.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, hey, you got to do what you got to do, you know. So
Cover
um,
bands are like a thing. Like,
they're huge here in Vegas. It makes me want to fucking cry. Like
my,
tribute bands is
oh, well,
like
you're in
that's the
Vegas.
only thing that gets booked locally is tribute bands. It's fucking
I mean,
gross.
honestly, I'm not surprised. There's like venues in Chicago. That's pretty much all they have.
That's so
My
sad
friend,
though. Like there's so many amazing bands that do have a following and would pull a crowd, but people don't take a chance on them because they'd rather play for Bob and Jane who are drunk as shit every Wednesday night.
yeah,
You know? So
and sing Sweet Caroline.
yeah.
So my buddy, whose also name is Nick, um, he's a drummer of a metal band, but he also does merch and like roadie stuff for a cover band around here, and he loves them. It's
Hmm.
crazy. He also has like a weird thing with Taylor Swift. He like made a whole battle vest with just Taylor Swift stuff on it.
Really?
He
Huh.
like is the king of like parody metal shirts. I
Okay.
love it.
Parody
I
metal
love it.
shirts. Cool.
Yes.
What else can you tell us about this Under Oath album?
Um, a lot of it's just personal stuff. Like I got one of their shirts, and then later turned it into a halter top. And now it doesn't exist anymore. I don't have it anymore. And it makes me sad.
Hmm.
Was like I noticed like I was obsessed with the size youth large. Like
I
that was
wore
my
youth larges
size.
at the time. I was that skinny. I was freaking
Why
tiny.
like that like was like you are an emo kid if you could fit a youth large.
It's weird. And yeah, the wearing skinny like shirts, like tight shirts. And that was even before skinny jeans for me. Like I was still wearing
Uh-huh.
Dickies shorts, but I would and like skate shoes, but I'd wear a really tight T-shirt. Um, yeah, it was weird. It was a thing that we did back then, and then it
Yeah.
became skinny jeans and tight shirts, and then it became skinny jeans and baggy shirts. And now it's I don't know what it is. I still am rocking the skinny jeans, but yeah, it's so funny that how there were certain trends that hit that I never understood until I like wore them. That happened a couple times.
Yeah.
So
I there was this one sweater that I wanted, and like they didn't have my size at one Marshalls, so my mom like drove me to like every Marshalls until I found it. But it was still tight.
I
But I was
remember
like, "No, it's tight."
when I got into skinny jeans, my dad bought me like two $50 Kohl's gift cards. He's like, "You need clothes and you're in college," and I was like, "Yeah, cool." And I was like, he's like, "Well, I would like to go shopping with you so you can get the right stuff." And so he went to Kohl's, and I was buying the. They didn't have guys skinny jeans yet, so I was buying the Levi's 535s, which were a girl's
Mm.
bootcut jean. And he was such a good sport about, oh, we're in the women's aisle and I'm picking out jeans. And my dad's
Fair
like
enough.
not knowing what's going on, but he's like not saying anything, but he's like, this is weird. And I was like, this is what the deal is. So, because they didn't make the Levi's 510s and the 511s, the skinny guys ones. Those didn't come out until like years later. So
Well, I've been wearing the same style Old Navy black skinny jeans since like the beginning of time. And a certain someone used to wear them, steal them from me. We wore this.
you guys are the same size.
Yeah, and he would get like holes in the crotch. It was great. Okay, so back to UnderOath. So your friend in the chat said Dallas, so I'm
Yeah,
guessing
that's Kyle. Kyle
yes,
introduced me to skinny jeans. To be honest with you,
nice.
he was.
So Kyle, I feel like is gonna be a regular.
I hope so. I hope so. He's pretty supportive of everything I do. I really appreciate it. Shout out
Yeah.
to you, Kyle. You've been always been really great about that. He also
My what?
reads my movie scripts and stuff like that. He's very supportive.
Yes, which I need to do.
So, but no, Kyle was into those bands at the same time, and we went. He was the only other scene kid at my college, and oh, he says Nick and his little king crown thing,
Hmm.
and he's the guy that we did Metal Dance Party together.
Oh yeah,
So
you're.
yeah, yeah. But Under Oath was already I think Chasing Safety came out the summer before I met Kyle. I believe so. But he was really into Norma Jean as well and all of that. So, yeah, good times. We had great times doing
Yeah.
that.
I remember that show that I was talking about. We had this one venue. Well, there was two venues with similar names. I don't remember which one it was, but I had this habit of like pulling up a chair from somewhere and standing on it, and that was like my spot. And I'd always do the pointing thing that I guess some people used to call posy pointing, even though it wasn't posy pointing. It was
Names for
just
this shit are so ridiculous, man. Posy
yes,
pointing.
I know. And
Oh my
it turned
god.
out this guy that I was hanging out with was like taking pictures of me, and I didn't know it until my friend told me.
That's funny.
That's a whole nother
That
story.
sounds like a whole other story, dang. Um, Back to the album, I remember at
Hmm.
night. The summer that I listened to this album a lot, which was 2000, had to be 2002, I think. The summer after I graduated high school. That last track on this album is just all synth, but I loved it. Like it was just this. I remember I would drive and like it would just kind of come on and be like, oh, this is so soothing. It was so different.
It's
Um,
called 814 Stops Today.
Yeah, I don't even know
That's
what
the
that
song.
means, but
Me
it was
neither.
just
Who
that
does?
moment where they're like, "Chris,
Me
do
neither.
something cool and dreamy over this to finish this album off." And it was
Eagle.
kind of fresh. And I didn't really listen to any synth stuff like regularly until years later,
Right.
but that little bit, that little taste was kind of nice, you know.
Yeah. I think there were some like people in the scene later on that kind of overdid the synthesizer.
I think there are a lot of bands that did it better than Under Oath. I don't think that we're being
Sure.
honest. I don't think that Chris was really that great of a synthesist, in my opinion. He didn't really like. There's so much more that you can do with it once you learn how to actually synthesize sounds
Right.
and stuff. Like You can make anything, and there are metal bands like death metal bands that use like pipe organs and strings and stuff,
That
like
I love.
and that's all synth, and it sounds great, and they know what they're doing. They know
Like
exactly
Cradle,
what they're doing with the synth.
like Cradle of Filth.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but it fits. It fits it, right?
Yeah.
But and I would say, um, let's see, what band was it? Was it Devil Wears Prada? Devil Wears Prada did a lot of synth stuff, and I thought that they did it better than most. Um, there was another band that I thought was even better at it.
I
Who
had no clue
was
that was
it?
a book at the time.
Yeah, who was? There was another band that there was a band that came out that was doing it better than Devil Wears Prada. I can't. We Came as Romans. When We Came as Romans dropped, they were doing synth stuff and they were incorporating it so much better than Prada or UnderOath ever did. And I was like, this is how you fucking do it. Like, if you're gonna incorporate it as an instrument that's playing through most of the song, you got to be able to feel it, And We Came as Romans was doing a great job with that.
I
They
only
were
heard
great.
about them like a couple years ago, but I never. There are so many bands that I like would hear their names a lot and just never listen to them, and I don't know why. And I feel like
Hmm.
that's gonna be like a thing that I'm gonna be doing. It's just like you know,
There's
sit down and listen to this band.
As we've been kind of diving into this and prepping for this podcast, there's been bands that I've started listening to that just like, I don't know, this came out 20 years ago, but let me check it out.
It's
Let me,
new to you,
yeah, yeah, but it
not
was, and it should have been
not to
something
the
that I listened
world.
to at the time, but I was so stoked
Yeah,
on certain bands that I wasn't
yeah,
really paying attention to this band or that
that
band,
happens. Yeah,
But
I
like I
always.
listened to that Scary Kids, Scaring Kids album, and it's great. It's got a lot of really great tracks on it, great lyrics too, and that's from that same Under Oath era, that style of like emo screamo thing. Um, but I remember like back then I'd seen them live, but I'd only really listened to like one or two songs. I think they were on MySpace or something. So
Yeah,
so
yeah. I was trying to be a pretentious goth person. No
pretentious.
problem with that, but I
There's,
had just in case
I have beef with
people
it,
are.
but any final thoughts on this album or favorite tracks?
Oh, oh man, that favorites is hard sometimes.
I mean, Sun
I
Still
think
Sleeps is the banger. That's
what the when the sun yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's the banger right there.
an Angel Below is my other one.
Angel Below.
Especially yeah, especially with someone who has had things happen in my like the things that happen in my life, like those lyrics really resonate with me. And
Hmm.
it doesn't I know it's probably about, Lucifer, the devil, Satan, whatever, but I think it could be just a person, it could be a feeling, it could be anything you want it to be about.
Sure, sure. Um, what would you rate this album
Oh,
out of
see,
10?
an 8. I know that's pretty high, but
I
I
think that
admire
yeah,
that.
that no, I'd say eight probably sounds about right.
I
It
had
was
it on vinyl too. But
whoa, oh, that's special. All right, shit. Whew, on vinyl.
anymore.
Saucy. So,
Anyway,
cool. All
your
right.
turn.
All right. So I chose Dead Poetic New Medicines. Now, Four Wall up until recently revisiting this album, Four Wall Blackmail was my favorite out of their three releases. Because it had August Winterman on it, and I fucking love that song. Right, August Winterman is there. There's some, and upon revisiting it, I realized what it is that I really liked about Dead Poetic's vocalist. He, um, his lyrics and his vocal style, he sounds more like a villain or an anti-hero.
Ooh,
He
I
does.
could I
He
could
like
get that.
even and we'll get into this album, but even August Winterman, it's like as if my ways were like yours, like perfect. I'll never be like. He's talking about how he's not good enough, but in this way, like a villain origin story. It feels like that the way he's talking about himself.
Yeah.
And listening to New Medicines, he talks about himself in that similar vibe.
Right.
And there are a lot of sassy bands out there, but Dead Poetic, their vocalist had this motif, this vibe about his lyrics and how he talked about himself that felt really creepy in a good way, like a little
Yeah, I
sleazy. And I don't think any of us really realized why it was working, but it felt like that. A lot of the messages of the songs felt like stuff that would be in a journal entry in somebody who has a villain origin story. And
Yeah, I
I
feel like it's
love
also
that.
super relatable.
In a similar, and it is in that way, right? Yeah, there's
Right.
a
Like,
loneliness and like a self-loathing that he
right.
has about his character that's resonant in
Yeah.
all the lyrics, and it's not
Hmm.
sassy like Chiodos would be or My Chemical Romance. It doesn't have this like, oh, you don't deserve me. Meh. It doesn't have that villain sassy bullshit. It's like,
Hmm.
I'm not a good person. I don't feel like I get why you don't like me. It's kind of that attitude in a lot of the
Yeah.
songs, and holy shit, like it's weirdly relatable,
Yeah.
and it kind of makes you feel powerful listening to it. I just realized I need to pull up the track list on this because I'm going to not look at them, and I don't have them memorized. But this album, the opening is like it's more aggressive. It's got more like hardcore screaming. His screaming definitely had like a there we go. Okay, I got it pulled up. It definitely had like more of an aggressive tone, which Four Wall Blackmail didn't have that many aggressive songs. It had a bunch of stuff that was pretty dreary, which I loved, but it was nice to hear like the opening of this album just like come out with a bang. Like I was like, all right, cool, fuck yeah, we're going. His scream also is reminiscent of Dan Wyant from Zayo. It has that like screaming panther thing going on. It doesn't sound like modern screams now that the techniques become defined and categorized, and
Hmm.
we have like they call it like tunnel throat and false chord and fry are like the three main styles of screaming.
Yeah, I didn't know what any of the styles of screaming were until like, you scroll through Instagram and you see vocal coaches.
Hey, we got
Oh,
somebody in
there's
the
a new
chat. Yeah,
one.
Montresor. He's an OG too that used to freaking follow me when I would
Oh,
game and stuff. Me and Mellie are starting a podcast here where we talk about the bands that we love from like 20 years ago. So, but yeah,
my friends should join.
yeah, they should.
I did.
But
They said they would. They lied to me.
They might have been in. We had some people in the chat lurking before. They just didn't say anything.
Oh,
But anyways, but he's got that panther esque quality when he screams. It sounds like a jaguar a little bit, and I think they put some distortion on the vocals to make it sound that way. I think that's what Dan does in Zayo too. I don't know for sure, but I really love it. It's not something that people do anymore. I really do like the style. Um, as far as there's like this album also like pound for pound has so many great songs on it, right? Taste the Red Hands is the opening song. Dream Club Murders is equally good. New Medicines, which is the title track, is awesome. Um, my my favorite track is Dimmer Light, but it's one of the slower songs. But it's because of the chorus. But I'll to catapult off of that. This album has so many great fucking choruses. Like the choruses in this album are just like so catchy. Four Wall Blackmail doesn't have that many of them that are like. It has a couple, right? Vices, it has some catchy choruses, but he doesn't do any screaming in Vices, so it sounds kind of radio rock ish, and I don't really like that.
hmm.
I feel like that's what they're trying to do. They're like, let's try to make a career out of this. UnderOath took a stab at that for a little while as well. Um, but but yeah, I just then the guitar is a little bit more creative on this too. The guitar on Four Wall Blackmail is a lot of it's either heavy guitars or really dry, clean tones, not a lot of effects. This one has a bunch of effects. They got really creative with it, and the mix is awesome. It still lands. Something I notice with a lot of newer bands that are heavy that is weird is that the vocals are not very prominent in the mix anymore because the guitar player is usually the writer of the band and he mixes the stuff, and so because of that, uh, he's not making the vocals prominent. Something that made a lot of these albums great, Changing of Times included. The vocals are prominent so that you can get the catchy lyrics, so that you can hit those catchy choruses, you can hear what they're saying. And when you bury that stuff for the sake of making the album sound heavy, it doesn't it works for musicians, but it doesn't work for anybody else,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that they really had kind of figured out in the mixes back then was that they wanted those vocals to be front and center so that you could hear the lyrics, so you could sing along and like feel the song. You know, it gives something about vocals being present in the mix. It gives the listener something to latch onto if they're not a musician. People singing along in their car and stuff like that. You know,
Right.
and
You
so
can't really do that with a lot of death metal bands.
I mean, some
I
people
mean,
do,
some
but
people,
some people
yeah.
do, but it's okay. You know, I mean, I scream along to stuff in my in my car, but yeah, I'm still a guitarist. When I listen to an album, I think about the music quality, and so it takes a lot for the vocals to really grab me and be like,
Mm-hmm.
"This is badass. I want to sing along to this." But this album does that for
Yeah.
me, and I just absolutely love it. Dimmer Light. The line in that chorus is, "How do I get back to where I was when you were smiling?" That line is, it hits, I get goosebumps talking about it right now. It hits
Mm-hmm.
me so hard because I feel like we've all been in a relationship like that where like the light has kind of started to snuff out and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
this person's still with me, but they're not really happy with me.
Right.
And you're like, how? What the fuck happened? Like, how do I? If I can do something to get back to where I was, I would do that for you. And that's kind of
Yeah.
how that song is, and I really love it. I just think it freaking slaps, man. Like it just hits all the emotional chords for me. The guitar. Here's another thing about that song. This is really common in this album. They layer a lot of guitars and in really unique ways. They're like, that chord doesn't feel like it should work in this song, but it does. Almost in like a jazz theory way. It sounds silly, but he's layering chords that maybe he knows what he's doing, maybe he doesn't. Maybe they're just trying something and it worked. Either way, it fucking works. They layer all these guitars and their different guitar riffs. They don't really belong together, but they overall create this like swell that just like fucking works, and I think it's great. So yeah, Dead Poetic, New Medicines. When did it come out? Came out in 2004. I was in college.
I was just moving here or already here.
Yeah, and I thing is, I never saw them on supporting this album. I only saw them supporting Four Wall Blackmail, and
So I have a story.
well, hold on. But the funny thing is that when Four Wall Blackmail came out, and I saw them at Cornerstone, that was like that summer, which was 2002, I think. The punk scene was shifting to emo and screamo. It was like happened in one summer. I don't know if people remember that, but it legit did. It was pop punk, pop punk, pop punk, and then a couple metal bands, and then emo came in and screamo, like, and it just took over. Everyone just shifted. They like switched teams, right? And I wasn't really ready to switch teams yet. I was still pop punk guy, and I went to a lot of pop punk shows at Cornerstone that year. But I had some friends from my church that were with us, and they were like, "Are you gonna go see Dead Poetic? You should check them out." And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll go. And I didn't really understand it at the time. I did not fucking get it right away because I was there to have like, let's jump around and be happy for this pop punk band, you know, like MXPX, Ace Troubleshooter, Hangnail. Those are all the bands that I loved.
Hangnail.
And so I didn't really get it when they came out on Four Wall Blackmail. And it wasn't until like, so that was 2002. It wasn't until 2004 where I was like, I was getting into heavy music and like heavier stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna check this out again. And I listened to both of these albums, Four Wall Blackmail and New Medicines, and yeah, they it took me a while to get it, I guess. And from that point on, I listened to lots of screamo, but I wasn't the first through the gate, as it were. I was still mourning the loss of my precious pop punk scene. So, because that
We
was my first experience in underground music was pop punk, and
we all just got sad all of a sudden. Like it went from like happy pop punk and like ska to like depressing.
yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there's got to be some historical event attached to that.
Yeah.
9/11 probably. Uh,
Oh, I don't know if you ever heard the theory behind MCR and 9/11. We'll touch on that one
I
day.
think you told me that. But yeah, it might be. Who knows? Subconsciously, 9/11 could have had a huge influence on why people were like, maybe the world's kind of shit because like this
Mm,
really sad event took all these people's
yeah.
lives, you know. We didn't
I
feel
was
like we didn't feel
actually
happy and invincible all the time, you know.
I was in New York a week before that happened, and they were in the background of a picture a week before.
Fuck, dude, that's oh
There's
man.
more to 9/11 and that I experienced,
I
but
saw it. I just remember. I mean, I think it's good that we're going here because it is part of the culture of that time. But for
right.
me, I was in an American government class. I also was taking Arabic at the time
Oh.
before 9/11 happened. So I had all these Muslim friends in high school,
Hmm.
right? And then the World Trade Center got hit, and they like literally stopped class and like moved us in, like pulled the TV in, and like y'all need to see this. And it's wild that they're like these kids need to see this. This is happening right now. They need to be aware of it because it was traumatizing. It was it was really scary to like.
Yeah.
And I get that other people live in war torn countries, but living in America, at least up until that time, there was an invincibility that I think a lot of people felt, really kind of untouched by the rest of the world, and that changed everything. So it's possible in the subconscious that it affected like feelings of mortality, that type of thing. Those things became
Yeah.
more alive, more present for the young generation. I think
Well,
because that is
well,
those teenagers. That is the generation that observed that stuff. So
right. Being in New Jersey at the time,
yeah, you were
you could
close. Shit.
you could see the smoke and everything. Even
God,
20 minutes away, hours.
that's
My uncle
crazy.
was actually working across the river on a building because he was a welder and he actually saw it happen.
Jesus,
Never was the same after that. But
it's
yeah,
so scary.
I
Yeah,
never
it's.
thought about that.
I think it could be. I mean, it's one of many historical events that have happened since then. That yeah, that I don't know that generation.
Changing of times.
We've seen we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of shit, for our generation. I think so.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Dead Poetic. I think I love it more now than I did at the time because the lyrics are very mature. Actually, um,
Hmm.
it's when I look back at this, it's wild to me that a band like this was so ahead of their time. I feel. I don't know why Dead Poetic, because Vices came out in 2006, so it was 2 years after this. That's not around the time to where the scene had disappeared. It's the emo screamo scene was still alive, very alive at the time. So for them to like try to transition to radio rock, it's kind of like they fucked themselves over on that. Uh, you know, um, because there was still like bands like My Chem were huge at the time. So
Mm,
they could have made it doing if they'd stayed faithful to their style. I think, in my opinion.
yeah.
Um,
I
you
didn't
know,
actually listen to this album a lot. I don't even remember it at all, so I have to do some homework.
it'll
Um,
hit you because it's you listen to the lyrics too. The lyrics are phenomenal. Like, God, they're so good.
s-
They're
so
cryptic at times, but there are these hooks that you're just like, man, I freaking feel this.
funny story. Me and my sister never been to a concert or show together. We're three
Really,
years apart. She's never is.
you
We were into
still haven't been to a show together?
no, we have to. At least see like Nine Inch Nails or something. Like something that we both could enjoy. I mean, I think she would like Lorna Shore just because she thinks Will is pretty, despite
That's
her
a
being
reason. That's
married.
reason enough for a girl to go to the concert.
Anywho, so there was an attempt to see Dead Poetic and Embodiment. She was just like, oh, because she was like into like more at that time. She was more into like electronic music,
Yeah,
like drum and bass, raver kind of stuff.
sure.
And we get there, and they neither of those bands were there. Like they like dropped or
They dropped the
something.
tour. They weren't on it.
Yeah, and I don't
Dang.
remember the band. We stayed like during a band, and then I just kind of was like, but she's like, I forgot what band it was, but she was like, "Is everything you listen to like screamy like this?" And I'm like, "Yep." But now she appreciates that kind of music. Finally, she's probably gonna be like, "I've always like, no, you didn't.
No, I love it. I liked this, and you're like, shut the
You
fuck up. You did not. You judged the
no."
fuck out of me. You
Well,
know.
she was. with someone, and her inter I can't speak right now.
Introduction. Is that the word you're looking for?
Introduction. Sometimes
Welcome to the English language.
it's my second language.
Okay.
Um, actually isn't. I just act like it is. So she introduced this guy as whatever his name was, and then pointed to me. She listens to that same screaming shit you love.
Oh, that's
Like,
funny.
thanks,
That's funny.
but
That's cool.
moving
Well,
moving on.
moving on because we'll get to your newish album. I give this. Oh, it's weird for me. You're gonna notice as we do this podcast, my ratings are always gonna be either really high or really low because I either really love something or I don't like it at all.
Fair enough.
That's really kind of how I vibe on something. So I'm gonna give it a freaking. I want to say 9, but I'll give it 8.5. I give it an
Okay,
8.5.
that's
Well, I'm gonna give it. No, I'm
that's
gonna be
different.
honest. I'm gonna give it a 9 because it's vibing on me right now. Which, that's how I feel about it. Watch in a year, I won't give a shit. But right now,
Yes,
something
yes, that's
about
gonna
it,
happen.
it just like revisiting it, it just hit. I was like, this is fucking perfect. I freaking love this album. So, Dead Poetic, if you're listening, thank you for making this great album. Really do appreciate it. The lyrics are awesome. Just everything you guys did with this is great. So.
I would feel bad like if I ever gave someone a low rating. I'm too nice.
You're too nice. We're gonna get one.
Except if it's like, Insane Clown Posse. Oh no, I have a friend that likes them.
I
They're not
think we'll
gonna
tend to
listen. They
pick
don't give a
albums
shit.
that we like for the most part. But yeah. All
I don't
right.
want to
So
suffer.
your next one. What we did was we picked an album from that era, from the nostalgia era of our youth, of the scene, and then we picked something new that's still kind of part of that scene in a way. Either it's part of underground music now, or it's one of the band's later releases. So
Right.
Melly, which one did you pick?
Bum, 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 bum. Live from the Church by Zayo.
Zayo, Live from the Church. Tell us about it.
Um, so it's a live album, obviously, and I don't know if they've done a live album before.
I
Maybe
don't
they
know if
have
they
and they
have
just
either.
didn't,
They've done a live DVD, but I don't know if they
which I
released.
should
They did
watch.
Lesser Lights of Heaven, which was that DVD that
Um,
had multiple full live sets on it. But
so I wanted to listen to it because I'm a big fan. They were one of the first hard bands that I liked. I thought they were so different because I haven't heard anything like that. I think I was listening to like pop punk at the time,
okay,
probably. Maybe a little hardcore in regular school punk. Um, and I've seen them live. The first time I saw them live was I think I was like ninth grade, and I went with my youth group. Like a small portion of my youth group went to this Purple Door Festival, which was like a little like a mini Cornerstone.
I think I heard of that one.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, they usually had a bigger band there as well. Like POD played one year, and that was like the first. That was before they got really big. Um, but I saw Zayo, and like some of my friends liked it. Some of my friends were just like, "What the heck is this?" And I saw them then, and I remember them wearing all black. I don't know why that like sticks out to me.
Okay.
I think that was their style at that time. I don't remember what album it was big then or if
What
they
year?
were
What year was it?
releasing. I couldn't even tell you. Like no, no.
No, you
Later
can't. You
night.
can't. You can't do it. Okay.
I can't math right now.
Okay.
uh and the last time I saw them it was about like 5 or 6 years ago, probably leaning more towards six, whatever.
Okay.
And I I was overdressed, so I was really disappointed because I was like, man, I can't mosh in this
Why were you overdressed?
because I was on a date and that was stupid. I was like, dude, I'm just gonna wear like I'm just gonna wear bike shorts next time I ever see them. Like it was just not fair. The guys had all the fun.
Every time.
Yeah. Which is like now that I have glasses, it's gonna be an issue. Not like you could relate or anything.
No, I mean, I think I've asked like people to hold my glasses before, or if I know I'm gonna get crazy. Actually, I think no. I went to the Entheo show. I had my glasses on, and they stayed on
Oh,
my
you
face.
told
They
me.
stayed on my face almost the entire time until somebody
Mhm.
cheap shotted me from the back,
And then you
and
caught
and
them.
I caught him like a ninja, and I put him back on, and I was like, oh shit! I almost like. I mean, I have an extra pair of glasses at home, but I would have had to drive home blind if they had gotten smashed. So, but
I
but yeah, that was the kind of amazing. But most of the time, they stayed on my face. Believe it or not.
I think we should have a T-shirt that will say, "Who will hold their glasses while we dance?" or
Okay,
something like
hold my
that.
glasses while I dance in the pit. That's not a bad
Like
idea. That's good.
me and my friend Rob, when we were at Purple Door, we took turns. I think.
Yeah, I'd gone to plenty of shows with a girlfriend at the time and hold the thing. So
Yeah, I
did that.
had one of my exes play he wore a mask on stage,
Hmm.
and I hold his glasses.
That's
So
funny.
everyone was blind on the stage,
Yeah,
whatever. The singer like got LASIK like later on.
for sure.
Back to this.
Hmm.
I just was giving a little bit of a backstory.
Sure, sure, sure.
Long story short with me, right? So, of course, my favorite track is an older one, and if these scars could speak.
God,
So
when I heard that track was on this album, I was like, "Fuck yes, dude!" That
yeah,
track, like they don't always like play it. They don't. I've seen them several times, and they don't always play it live. So the fact that was one of my first Zayo songs that I loved.
yeah,
So
they
when
played it at
yeah,
the show I was at in high school.
oh man, it's so good. So
I was also supposed to see them like a little bit after high school with a friend, and then they canceled on me, and I don't have a license, so
how
like
many
hell
times
no.
have you seen Zayo?
Like 3 times maybe.
Okay,
I might have seen them at Cornerstone. I probably did. I have like the worst memory. I could see a band like a ton of times, and I'm like, how many times did I see them? Um, and then there's a song on here that I really like, but I don't know how to pronounce the name. Starts with a C. I always want to say crouton, but that is not correct.
Croatoan.
Thank you.
I know which one you're talking
English
about.
is not my first language.
Yeah,
You
you
know
just keep saying
this.
that Italian is until somebody calls you out on it.
That's how I should get away with it.
Yeah, learn a couple
I
Italian
have
phrases.
I have language issues, but I'm getting better. I think like being on a podcast probably will help.
There you go. There you go.
I like feel like I'm forced to articulate more than just mumbling really fast. Um, so those are two of my favorite songs, and I really like that it's not overly produced. You know what
I
I mean?
the thing that I loved about it was I've been listening to so many newer metal bands that everything's so clean. It doesn't sound like a band playing in a room. Then I listen to Kardashev and their albums do sound like they're playing in a room even though they're really polished. This
Hmm.
sounds like a fucking band and they sound huge. And the mix is not the same as newer metal stuff. It still sounds like Zayo's mix in the previous albums, but they sound big. Like the kick drum sounds monstrous. Like it's just like punching you in the gut. So
Yeah.
good. When they do the syncopated guitars, like the chugs in If These Scars Could Speak, it's heavy, dude. It sounds like it's
Uh huh.
wild that like the band that started that type of shit, like you listen to them play it on a live album, like they still fucking got it. They're still heavy as fuck.
Right.
You know?
So when you go to live shows, do you always remember to wear earplugs?
I never wear earplugs.
Me neither. It's so terrible. I
I used to play on
prob
stage where it's really loud and not wear earplugs. I tried
I
a couple
feel
times
like
and I couldn't hear anything. So I think my hearing's
that's
kind of shot already to some
yeah.
degree.
I gave up on hearing. I can't. I don't need to hear things. Well, I do. I want to hear music,
Yeah.
but it like muffles it. If they could come up with like something that will make you feel like you're not wearing an earplug or sound like you're wearing an earplug, that would be great.
They make those actually. They
Oh,
make
I need
they make
earplugs.
earplugs that don't like muffle it. They just reduce the noise, but they're really expensive.
Hey, earplug people, sponsor us.
Yeah.
So Mellie doesn't go deaf. She's already going blind.
Yeah. So
Um, yeah, I love and I love playing music loud in my headphones. Like I love hearing like bass. Like I love things with like a heavy bass and a heavy bass drum and like a double bass.
yeah.
So one of my Gen Zer friends, she might watch this, I don't know. She's not a fan of the double bass. Like when we were at
I'm
Audiotheque,
like, excuse
she
me.
was not a fan of the double bass. And then we just make jokes about how like I'm old. Like I'm not even that old. But like there's like such a
What's her
difference.
problem with the double kick drum?
I don't know, I never asked her.
Like,
I should ask.
it's too aggressive? Does she like heavy music?
She's more into like Animal Collective, but she does
Well, who
like
cares what she thinks? My God. If you don't even like
right.
heavy music and you're criticizing it. No, I'm
She
saying
does like
I'm saying anybody who doesn't really like listen to heavy music and they're criticizing it, it's like
you're
you gotta
not it's not your main genre. You can't have an
well, you gotta
opinion.
get it first before you can critique it. Like in my opinion.
I don't
Like
know. You know what? I might have misheard.
that she didn't like double kick.
That's what I thought, but I don't know. Now I'm getting all defensive for
I'm
my
not
friend.
sorry. I'm not attacking your friend. I'm just saying like come
You're
on.
just attacking her music taste.
Not well, we are critical of music on this podcast. That is what we
It's
do.
okay.
So,
She probably won't watch this
but
really.
but no,
It's all love.
I have already resigned to the fact that like any band that listens to this podcast and they don't like what I have to say, I'm like, I ain't getting fucking paid to support your band. I'm critiquing your album, so you
Yeah.
know, don't get pissed. Just be
Yeah.
glad that I'm fucking talking about it.
We're not
So
at least we're not pitchfork.
yeah, what's Pitchfork? Is that a periodical?
It's like an online thing. I don't know.
Oh, like a
It's mostly
tabloid.
snobby people that are into that one.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, it just makes me want to see Zayo live again. That's really what it
When was the last
does.
time you saw him?
Like 5, 6, 7. I don't even know. It was a while ago.
When did I see them last? Shit. It might have been St. Louis like 5 or 6 years ago. Um, I can't remember exactly, but it was a good show though. And it's
I
I
wanted to
love
go
that
last year,
I love that there's
but
just I love that they've continued on, and a lot of the bands from this scene, Norma Jean included, other bands too, like and the one that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, have not have not relied on their need to stay relevant in the scene to keep making music. They haven't
mhm.
gotten stuck in that loop of like, oh, we're not relevant. They've been like, fuck it, we're going to make what we want to make, and if people like it, people like it, and they become sustainable in their own way by having like their own niche of followers that their fans that love them still. And a lot of people that go to Zayo shows want to hear the old stuff, right? But this album has several tracks that are off of Crimson Corridor that are banging, that are
Yeah, that's
heavy,
a really good
heavy
album
fucking
too.
tracks. They're great. And
Yeah.
I actually didn't really give Crimson Corridor much of a listen. And then I listened to this album, and it had a couple songs. I was like, what is this song? What album is this one on? Because this is badass. And it was on Crimson Corridor, and several of them were. And I was like, fuck, okay, I didn't know. I should have given that album a better shot. But they've got some chunky riffs, dude. Some really awesome chunky riffs. Really love
It's
it.
probably a good thing that you still like them.
Well, I have them tattooed on my arm here, so
Exactly, that's the
you know.
joke.
So I'm glad that that my instincts were correct on that tattoo.
Yeah.
So
You
but
didn't get an
it's
as I
not
like dying tattoo.
that would have been awful, dude. As I lay dying tattoo, like, and everyone was like, "Oh fuck!" I'd get it all blacked out, a full blacked
Wait,
out arm.
blackout tattoos are pretty cool, but
So, oh
isn't it
man,
also like a book or something? Just read the book and
it's
say you're a big fan.
yeah, it's shit. I'll think of the name of the author later, but he wrote some other really big novels as well. So
I almost
William
got the
something.
Poconacho. Well,
Well,
I wanted
It's
to get the
Faulkner.
Poconacho.
William Faulkner
Oh,
wrote a book called As I Lay Dying.
right.
Um,
Okay, that
so
sounds. I
yeah,
almost got a Poconacho punk tattoo, and I'm glad I didn't.
the reason that I got the Zayo tattoo was my friend Joel, who was my roommate at the time, got a Pocanatcha punk,
Oh, that's fine.
and I was like, oh, and I was going back to Salina to see my band's like farewell show or whatever, the band that I left, but they're finally quitting. I was like going to see them play, and I was like, "Fuck! If I was gonna get a band tattoo, what would I get?" And I was like, "I'd get a Zayo tattoo." And so I legit on the way to Salina called my tattoo artist in that town. Is like, "Bro, I got freaking $250 to spend. Can you do something for me?" And he's like, "Fuck yeah, I can." So he drew up the freaking Zayo tattoo for me, and I was like, "I want some like blood and black ink splatter on it to like give it its own like vibe." But Liberate, Tex and Ferris is my favorite album of theirs, so that's why I went. And the logo with the circles is just so fucking cool. I wish I could get it closer to the
Yeah,
camera, but this angle I can't. But yeah, it's weird because this wasn't an expensive tattoo because there's a lot of negative space, but it's fucking huge and I love it. So, but yeah, I still love Zayo, and I'm grateful that they're still kicking and they have carved out their own space. They're doing their own thing. They're not trying to like a lot of the bands that they play with aren't bands that are part of the deathcore scene or shit like that. They play with a lot of underground bands that are similar to them,
yeah.
which is interesting. So, but
I
yeah,
don't know
and
if anyone played with them when I last saw. Or at least not anyone that I remembered.
yeah, I can They
It's
played with some
funny.
more like death metalish bands when I saw them,
Okay.
uh, but Russ, I think Russ still lives in. He's the only one that doesn't live out in that area in Pennsylvania. He lives in California. I
He's
think he lives.
so fun to
I
watch.
think yeah, he's amazing, and I think he lives in Huntington Beach still. But he just flies out and plays the shows with them, and then flies back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love, and also something about these bands that are still kicking. They get to a place where they're not rotating a lot of members anymore because they finally found a crew of guys that want to keep doing it and love doing it together.
Yeah.
And that's what their lineup is right now. Ever since they got Marty and Jeff in the band, it like created a stability, I feel like, in the band because they're like these are their homies. They love these dudes. They love being around them, and so it makes writing music fun. And
I
that's a huge part of it. You gotta like who you're doing it with.
it's true. I will say when I saw SIP covering them, a couple songs from like their Sean, I got really emotional.
Yeah, that Symphony in Peril, that album Horse Trophy is a fucking banger. We'll probably review that one at some time because I love that one front to
Yeah.
back as well. That's
Yeah.
such a great album. So cool.
So,
Any final thoughts? Favorite track? Yeah, I think you said favorite track was If These Scars Could
right.
Speak.
The album art's really cool too. Has like a green and red motif with a little bit of black.
I've got the album art on the stream. They can see it. So
Oh,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah. But
It's over
I think
here.
that's Dan. I don't know. Does Dan own Holy Mountain Printing? Is that his company?
He has a printing company?
Holy Mountain Printing
Yeah.
prints all the Zayo vinyl and all the shirts and stuff and does all the design work. I think Dan owns it.
Yeah.
I don't know
A
for sure,
lot.
but I think it's
Yeah.
him.
Well, a lot of the bands too went through Belly Acres. I don't. I think they might have for like a minute
Yeah,
in the
Holy
past.
he's been doing Holy Mountain's been a company for a while, but they do all the Zayo stuff and they're the first band that I saw. Zayo was the first band that I saw Holy Mountain doing anything for, and so I think it's owned by one of the guys in the band, but
Oh,
could be
that's
wrong.
cool.
Yeah, I
I
think it
think
is.
that's
I
like
think it is
one
owned
of.
by Dan, and I think this design work is him too. That's my guess because he's a
I feel
tattoo
like
artist too. He's a designer, so
that's like a big job for people in the scene is like screen printing or like copy roasting.
I mean, if you
I
can, yeah, if you can make your own merch, you save a shit ton of money. So people get into
right.
that line of work for that reason.
I really wish I wore my Zayo shirt today. That's an
Mm.
owl on it.
Do I have any
My only
Zayo
Zayo
shirts
shirt.
still? I might have one lying around. I can't remember. I've had a couple of them. So, man,
Um, so
cool.
I give this
Rating? Yeah,
yes an 8.
you giving it an
For
eight as well.
not everything's gonna get an 8.
Okay, Fair enough. Fair
Maybe.
enough.
I keep just picking favorites. Well, so,
All
on
right.
to you.
On to me. The album that I chose is He Is Legend's Few. I when I recently because I recently got back into playing guitar and recording music, and I started listening to He Is Legend, and the reason that I did was back in December, me and this guy, my gaffer, we shot a documentary in L.A. and we drove out that way, and I had to pick something that was middle of the road, that was heavy, that I would still enjoy, that wasn't going to scare him out of the fucking car. And so I picked He Is Legend's first two albums, 90125 and I'm Hollywood. And we listened to those quite a bit. But
Hmm.
then when it got through those albums, you know how Spotify like kicks you to another He Is Legend song that might be on a different album? That's what
Right.
it did. It popped me over to another album that I hadn't listened to. And they put out a lot of stuff since I Am Hollywood and 90125.
Yeah. I Am Hollywood is pretty much the only one I listen to, so I need a venture.
Well, this album I think is their best album.
Nice. I
I love I Am Hollywood and 90125, but
Do they
this
have any
album
like sassy sounding songs on that the
he's
album you're
he's
talking
still
about?
pretty sassy, and
Uh,
he's got that villain quality too, a little bit like Dead Poetic.
yep.
Um, but uh, but he this album, I don't know. So because of that, I was like, oh, this track is good. Maybe I should dive back into this He Is Legend and check him out. And so I listened to White Bat, and I listened to Few, and I listened to Heavy Fruit, and I think there's another one that I listened to as well. All more recent albums in the past like 10 years. Um, this one I think came out in, I want to say 2017, so it's not brand fucking new. It's 7 years old, 6 years old. I think it's 2017. Yeah, so it's not, but it was very new to me, and they are one of those bands that continued on and created their own niche outside once the scene kind of dissolved. And um, my God, this album has so many. There's only one song on it that I fucking hate. Every other song in this album I absolutely love. And I got several that are just like I'll put on repeat regularly. But there is this. They have albums like they did an album called "Suck Out the Poison," which came out after "I Am Hollywood." It was their follow up, and that one was very Maylene esque. It was very southern, like front to back, right? Didn't have as much jazzy or punk guitar in it like the first two albums did.
Do you know where
And
they're from?
I want to say North Carolina, um,
I looked it
but
up while you kept talking.
but anyways, but they attempted some different styles in other albums. Heavy Fruit is like the least loved album of theirs, as far as I am aware, reading on the Reddit threads and stuff. And it's because it's definitely more of a poppy album. They try this, everybody seems to try to take a stab at radio rock. It seems one of these bands does, but this album goes back to the textures that are in I'm Hollywood a lot. Those jazzy guitars, really intricate chord work, great. Like it's got some like not a lot of solos, but the guitar riffs are really fucking unique and interesting, and the heavy guitars are heavy when they hit. Not a lot of screaming in the album, though. Most of their later stuff doesn't have a lot of screaming in it. Um, and yeah, so, but this album, I got into it because the song Sand is their number one song on Spotify. And I was like, what? Okay, and now a song that's not on I Am Hollywood is the number one song. I'm going to check it out. And so I dove into it, and God damn, it's I think it's Sand. It might be Air Raid. I think I have to look. Let's see. Well, it's not their number one. It's their number three. But look, if you look at their freaking thing, I Am Hollywood is four of the songs, and Few is the only album that is in the top five that has like a hit song.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I checked out the album, and my God, and the lyrics. So they have these two songs that are kind of counterparts to each other: Collins and Eastern Locust. Collins has a I gotta look at the lyrics. Shit, they both have great freaking they have lyrics that are similar, that are like mirror images, but they change. Um,
Oh, Does the album kind of have a theme, you think?
I don't think it has a theme, but I think, but, but, what's his name? The freaking vocalist. He's got a mythos that he's been developing in the He's Legend lyrics for a long time. He
Oh,
refers to similar moments or characters or themes a lot of the times. So there's this. Okay, here's the lyrics. This is in Collins, right? It says, "I learned my lesson, paid my time. This blank expression, prepare to die. Hear my confession, my dauntless plea. This house unholy is haunting me."
oh,
Great. So it's this song of like seclusion and like, desperation. Um, and it's written to a particular person. I don't know who, but there is a mirrored image of the lyrics in Eastern Locust, and it goes like this: I've learned no lesson, paid no time. This blank expression, I will not die. Hear my confession, I'm warning you. This house I'm haunting will haunt you too.
wow.
So he's like taking this. This is a message of the same person, and he's taking an aggressive approach with the lyrics. Like he's like, "I'm gonna fuck you up," type of an attitude. And um, there's this other bit in here. It's the chorus, but I love it because in Collins he's more of like got this like lonely desperation thing going on, and this song is more about like I'm turning into an evil person. And the line is, "I traded in my halo, heaven's holy payload. I'll never get my wings. I choose darker things." And so it's really cool to see this. Like it's like a bit of a like they're moods, but they're also stories. Like you can see his attitude as a character has changed in this song, even though he's talking to the same person. And those two songs, if there's a way to put two songs on repeat back to back, like and have them, I would just do that. I guess I could make a separate playlist to do that, but you know what I'm saying. I do that
Yeah,
often. I'm like, fuck, I want to listen to that whole 8 minutes again. So
yeah.
good, but the lyrics are just freaking phenomenal. The guitar work's amazing. The mix is great. The guitars are heavy, but also have that melodic, dreamy, like jazzy quality to them. Um, I don't know if since you haven't listened to Later He Is Legend, you wouldn't know this, but Skylar Croom, that's the vocalist name. Skylar Croom, his vocals after He Is Legend, his singing voice became raspier.
Oh, wow.
So he had a really pure, clean singing voice in the first two
Right.
albums. But from doing lots of screaming, it became raspier and it
Yeah.
became a little sexier. A little more,
Oh,
a
I
little
guess
more.
I should check that.
You should a little more. It's got a little bit of a more an adult vibe to it,
Well, the
and
way he looks nowadays, I see pictures.
he's a sexy dude. Like he looks, and
He
he's
has
still
a
really
little
thin, and yeah, you should if you follow them on Instagram. Whenever he posts videos, he's still the same. He's so charismatic.
yeah.
Like
He has
he's
a big
got
beard.
you what?
He has a really big beard.
He does have a big beard, but yeah, he his vocals in "Suck At the Poison" and then everything after that, his singing vocals are raspier, and
Right.
I didn't like it when I first heard it in "Suck At the Poison." I was like,
Hmm.
nah, his vocals aren't very clean. It's like,
Yeah.
what happened? And then everything after that, I was like, as you get older, you're like, I actually kind of dig this. I dig the
Yeah.
fact that his vocals have taken on a different character, and now he doesn't do a lot of screaming in this one. I don't know if he does any, but he does have that rattle in his throat when he belts it out, which is just great. It's fantastic. So,
The
um, so yeah,
earlier, sorry,
oh, you're fine.
the
What?
earlier stuff, like his singing voice, kind of reminded me of like Anne Berlin or something like
It's
that.
very clean. It's very clean and
Yeah.
pure. Yeah, and for the time, that really worked, right? But yeah. So, anyways, uh, this album favorite songs are gonna be "Sand." No, no, no. Is it "Sand"? I have to look at my Spotify. "Silent Gold." So I got three songs that I love on this album. "Silent Gold," love it. It's very jazzy. It's great. And then Collins and Eastern Locust. I talked about those two. Those three songs, all amazing. The song I fucking hate is right after Eastern Locust. It's got this like carny like sounding riff, like carnival sounding guitar riff, and I fucking hate it. It's just like, and it's right after the song that's my favorite. So it's like, God damn it. I like every time it comes on, I'm like, oh, skip or go back, like every
I'm
time.
gonna have to
Because I
hear
just,
it.
and it's a good song. It's called Fritz the Dog, and it's just about a dog that shits in people's lawns or whatever. Uh, but, um,
That's
but yeah,
hilarious.
it's very comical, and I wish it wasn't on the album. So sorry, He's Legend.
Does it
Sorry,
just not make
sorry.
sense?
It does, in my opinion, it does not fit the mood of the album.
Okay.
It fits his. It's the same Skylar Croom sassiness, but it doesn't fit the vibe of the album is heavy and dreamy pretty much all the way through. And then that song is like it's like like no, it sounds like Cardi music. I don't like it. And the subject matter is also weird. It's very cartoony. The subject matter, the way he talks about
Oh,
him being a dog that shits in people's lawns. Um,
that should be like a hidden track. They don't do
Yeah,
those
yeah,
anymore. But
but yeah, if that wasn't on the album, I'd be even happier. But he's legend. If you're listening to this and you're pissed at me about my comments about Fritz the Dog, it's okay. Y'all still get a 10 out of 10 on this because
wow.
I have it's every other song is just so fucking good, and I have just not gotten tired of it. I've been listening to it for probably about 4 months, and I'm just it's if on my Spotify, if you're on my Spotify and it has like your top, it shows like a top 8 bands. If you go to the homepage, those like top 8 bands right there, it's in the top 8 every time because I keep on revisiting it. I keep going
I
back
never
to
know.
it.
I never know what's on mine.
Also, I'll just say this.
At least I don't remember for
Also,
now.
I'll say this.
Mm.
Something about certain bands. There's some bands that like hardcore bands and stuff. Their songwriting is doesn't take a lot of musical talent to play. Right? Like Kubla Khan is one of those bands. I love Kubla Khan, but their stuff doesn't take a lot of talent to play, but the songwriting's great.
Hmm.
He is Legend's one of those bands that you got to have both to do this. The songwriting's got to be great, and you got to have talent. It's hard to play. The stuff, the chord work he's doing and stuff is difficult, and a lot of channel switching on guitars. The drums are freaking awesome, right? Skylar's vocal range, of course, is insane. It's just one of those bands that like they're never going to get the cred they deserve. Like they blew up with I'm Hollywood because the scene at the time was like perfect for that album, and then they're never going to continue to get that kind of credit. And I just think the songwriting is fucking phenomenal. And then Skylar's lyrics, he's got this whole mythology, the way he talks about things in a similar way that Coheed and Cambria does stuff,
I
right?
love
Like
them.
he knows what he's talking about, and he's got the mythos, and he doesn't really care if you get it,
Hmm.
right? But you still, because it's relatable, you still get those freaking like lyrics that you're like, I fucking resonate with what he's talking about. I don't know the whole mythos, but I freaking resonate with what he's talking about right now. And yeah, 10 out of 10 on He Is Legend's Few. I freaking love it. So
I also they're from where my mom lives, which I think is cool.
it was I right, North Carolina?
Wilmington. Yep.
Wilmington. All right, cool. I was
Yep.
right. Yeah. So
I do listen to the song I Am Hollywood like at least once a week. And I have
it's
been
a
for
good song.
years.
China White and Dinner with the Gypsy were my two favorites on that album.
But
Um,
the whole story about like this girl pretty much getting swept up for by like fame, and
oh, is
I feel
that what
like
the
that's
song's? Is that what the song's about? I never really knew
I
what it was about.
feel like that's what I get out of
It's kind of
it.
like a Maxine vibe. That's interesting.
Yeah, which
That's
I have to
cool.
watch. But
Nice.
all right.
Well, we did our
I,
4 album reviews. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Really do appreciate it. This is our first go at the podcast. We started a little late because we had a lot of technical difficulties trying to link up Mellie in Chicago and get it on the stream here. But we will be doing another one of these here soon. So keep looking. Follow the social medias on Not Your Scene Kid. I guess I can switch back to this screen that's the name of the podcast. Not Your Scene Kid. We are two people that are unashamed about the music that made us who we are in that era. We feel like we kind of decided to do this podcast because a lot of people try to act like their emo thing was something they should kind of forget about. And
right.
my hardcore emo phase, I felt so alive around that time. I don't want to forget about it.
Tell you.
I freaking loved it. So
We
so yeah.
also we I also made a Discord.
Oh, you made Discord too? All right, cool. We'll have a
I just had
Discord.
it.
So nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys for following everybody that popped into the stream, and we will see you guys next time.
Tell your friends.